So now the step of adding in some finite controls in every single one of the joint intersections. Now they're going to be set up just like one of these is, where it's sort of looped back on itself, and if the joint itself moves, it will move with it, and we need to set that up. What we also need to do is have these nice little control objects used on every single one of them. And now we could, of course, write a script that would build this like I initially have, but if you've gone and built custom ones and you don't want to actually go and figure out how to build spline controls, what I'm just going to do is make a copy of one of these spline controls. Actually, I'll make a new one, because those ones are all wired up already and have all kinds of controllers on them. So how about I just go and make up a new one, circle arrow control, and it's going to turn off that display render mesh on there again, and let's just get it up to where we need the first one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this as a default one to work from. So I'm just going to scale this down to a size that I like for the overall controls. So they'll be a little bit smaller, I guess. And I'll call it master. Now that it's we've got that, we're just going to keep reusing that basically in the code. We're just going to keep copying this object. So don't delete this until we've finished doing it, and then you can get rid of it out of the scene. Again, this is a shortcut to getting things done, and shortcuts are always good instead of having to write the whole script to create this. Again, if you wanted to eventually set it up so that you could easily do this over and over again, I'd write this into the script. And the code actually for building these is downloadable from my site again, from my control object scripts. So you can easily regenerate those as much as you want. I'm just going to write this into a new script at this point. I could put it in my miscellaneous ones, but it might be easier to sort of see and use from this perspective. We're going to have to do a few things the way it's set up. First, I want to be able to run it off the currently selected point helpers that I want to run it from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to go around and pick a point helper and then have it set it up to that one. So we're going to write this as a function. So it's a little reusable piece of code. And I'll just call this, say, find control. And when we run the function, we're going to pass it which point helper we want to actually use, which sort of parent node we're going to drive with it. So I'll call this call it BN for bone, because we're driving this bone right here. Equals open close parentheses around it. And again, the script is relatively straightforward. There's nothing overly fancy in it, just a linear code top to bottom as it steps through all the steps that we need. First thing we need to do is we actually need to make a copy of the control object. And we'll call this, give it a variable, call it con, and we just need to say copy $master. This will actually make a copy of this object. Next thing is let's actually set up a wire color for this control, so we get all the same wire color for them to start with. Maybe we'll pick a color of green or something. So con dot wire color equals let's see, R, say maybe 150 and 0, so R, G, and B, so a green value of 150. And then we need to set its position and its whole transform, position and rotation. We'll set scale and everything, because that won't matter, but we'll just set it with a transform. So what we want to do is make sure that this copy of this object, once we've copied it, is actually snapped right to this object here. So we'll just say con dot transform equals bn dot transform. So now that this will make a copy of that object, and I seem to have written something wrong.